If you're a beginner and you have been wondering how to sew this particular dress right here, then you are in the right place, because today I'm going to be showing you how to cut and sew this really beautiful style that you can wear to church. Please do well to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment, and let's get started. So the first thing you're going to need is your pattern paper. Like, you can draft this directly on the fabric if you don't want to use a pattern paper. This is completely optional. The width of this pattern paper is 27 inches, while the length of it is about 22 inches. So at this point, I'll just go ahead and draw a straight line from the top of the paper like this. So the essence of this straight line is for the drawstring. As you can see, the shoulder of this dress has a drawstring. So this line is going to be where the drawstring is going to be. So from this drawstring point, I'm going to be marking out the underbust measurement. So this dress is not mine, so her underbust measurement is usually 13.5 inches, but for the sake of this tutorial, I'm going to go up by half an inch. So I'm marking 13 inches instead of the 13.5, and that's because I want it to be really fitted around the shoulder and relax at that point. And then while the front waistline measurement is 16.5, but for the sake of this tutorial, I just went up by half an inch as well. You can even go up by 1 inch, especially because we want to eliminate any bulginess at the back. Okay, so I'm using 16 inches for her front waistline measurements. I'll just mark it and then I'll draw a straight line connecting it. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to be marking the length of the neckline. So I'm using 9 inches from the drawstring point, and then while the neck width is 3 inches, I'll mark it at that point right there. And with a straight rule, I'm just going to connect it like this. And then this is basically what the neckline looks like. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go all the way to this 27 inches point on the other side of the paper. So take note that when I'm using 27 because the length of the sleeve I want is 9 inches. So I'm going to times 9 by 3, that is 27 inches. And the reason why I'm timesing it is because we are going to gather the sleeve. Okay, so you can times it by 2 or by 3 depending on how full you want the sleeve to be. So if you want your sleeve to be 10 inches, that is the length to be 10 inches. That means you times your 10 inches by 3. So from this drawstring point now, I'm going to mark out my chest line measurement, which is 9 inches for hers. And this will be how wide I want the sleeve to be opened. You can go down by 10 inches or more depending on how open you want the sleeve to be. Then from here, you're just going to curve it all the way to the underbust area. So the distance from this point should be 2 inches. Okay, so you just connect it all the way to that 9 inches point like this. And then with this, we have drawn the armhole curve. Then after that, the next thing we're going to do is on the underbust line, I'm going to measure my round bust measurement. So my round bust measurement is 29, dividing it by 4, that is 7.25. While on the waistline, I'm going to divide my waist measurement by 4, and I'll mark it on the waistline as well. And now I'll just connect it drawing a straight line. Then while from this point, I'm going to go down by 4 inches, and I'll mark it, and then I'll connect it all the way to the waistline like this. And with this, we have drawn the back waistline of this dress. So just label that to be the underbust and this side to be the waistline. And now you go ahead and cut it out. You're going to cut out the waist area, the neckline, and you cut from the underbust area all the way through the armhole like this. And this is basically it. So if you notice, the upside is bigger than the downside, and the reason is because we are going to be gathering it so that it will fit into that waist part. Okay, so this is the fabric that I use for this. You need like 3 yards of Ankara fabric for this style. Then now I've gone ahead to cut on the fabric, and this is what the front looks like. So I'll just label this to be the front, and what I did was I added half an inch here, half an inch down, and half an inch on the neckline area. But every other part, I did not add any allowance. Aside this armhole area, you can add allowance if you want to. Then for the back, this is what the back look like. It's similar to the front. The only difference is that for the back, instead of using half an inch on that center front area, for the center back I'm using 1 inch for zipper allowance. So instead of half an inch, just use 1 inch for zipper allowance, like this. So the distance from the center back is 1 inch, while for the front the distance is half an inch, but every other thing is the same. Okay, so now I'll just separate the front from the back, and I'm going to be working on the front first. So this is the neckline points facing each other right there, and this is what we have. So at this point you can just take it to the sewing machine and hem it. That is, you hem the neckline like this, and you hem the other side as well. Then for the downside, I cut this side on. This side is on fold, half an inch for this side, 1 inch for the side seam, and then half an inch for the underbust area. So you also cut lining for this as well, and after you're done, you're just going to open it up. Make sure you notch the midpoint of this, and by the time you open it up, this is what it should look like. So after this, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be cutting the waistline for the back. Remember, this is for the front. So for the back, just cut out that back's waistline points like this. Just cut it through the waistline, and this will be for the back. So just remember to add zipper allowance at this point, 1 inch for side seam, half an inch and half an inch, and that is all for the back pattern. So by the time you open it up, this is what the back should look like. So at this point, I've hemmed the neckline for the front, and this is what we have. And I've also hemmed the armhole area, that is the sleeve point, and I'll do the same thing for the back pattern as well. That is the back fabric. I'll hem the neckline. So now I'm going to be placing the back onto the front, making sure that everything is aligned, and I'll sew from the neckline all the way to the armhole using the allowance we left for the drawstring. Okay, so about 1 inch or more than 1 inch that I left, so I'm just going to sew it together. So after sewing, this is what we have. This is the left side and this is the right side. So I'll just open this part up so that you see what it looks like this. So this is what we have. So now the next thing we're going to do is I'm just going to open this up. You can iron this if you can, and then now you're just going to hem this in place like this. So you hem it to one side, and then the other allowance you hem it to the other side. So this hemming, you are going to be creating the hole through which you are going to pass the rope through, for that drawstring effect that you can see on the dress. So at this point, I've gone ahead to sew the rope that I'll be connecting it, that I'll be attaching to this, to the shoulder parts. So now with my bobbin pin, I'm going to pass the rope through the hole that we created while we hemmed the shoulder parts. So from the neckline points, I'm going to pass it through all the way to the other side. So by the time you're done, this is what we have. So you're going to just draw this out, and then you're going to be securing that in place at the neckline point like this. So make sure it's not showing outside, especially at the neckline, and then you do the same thing for the other side and you secure it in place. When you're done with that, the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to be running a gather stitch from this side all the way to the other side. So you can start half an inch away from the center front and then 1 inch away from the center back. So this is what we have for the front, half an inch away from the center front. So while for the back, 1 inch away from the center back. After you run the gather stitch, you're just going to gather it all the way to the other side like this, and you do the same thing for the back as well. So after gathering, this is what we have right here. I've done the same thing for the other side as well, and this is what it looks like. So now I'm just going to open this up, and I'll be joining the left side to the right side at that center front area. And so I'm going to be using half an inch sewing allowance to join them together. The allowance we left while we were cutting the fabric. So for the back, just go ahead and pin this down. You don't need to sew it together because we'll be attaching zip at that point. So after joining the center fronts together, this is what it looks like. So this is the center, this is the waist part of the front, and this is what it looks like after notching. So now from that midpoint, you measure all the way to the side seam, and what I have is 8.5 inches. While you do the same thing for the other side as well, we have 8.5 inches. So I'm going to make sure I have 8.5 inches as well on the gathered part of this dress, and I'll do the same thing on the other side. So if it is too big, just gather it further. If it is too small, loosen it up. Okay, then after that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to be joining both sides on the underbust area. So I'll join from the side seam all the way to the midpoint. So make sure the midpoints of both fabric aligns together, and then you make sure that the gathers is also even. So you sew using 1/2 inch sewing allowance, and you make sure that the gather starts from about 1 inch away from the side seam. Then for the back, you're going to do the same thing. You measure from here to here, which is 10 inches on both sides. Then after that, you're going to measure also on the fabric that is on this point. So make sure you get 10 inches also on this part, and your gathering should start 1 inch away from the zipper line and 1 inch away from the side seam. So like I said, if it is too wide, just gather it up and measure it back again, and just make sure you get your exact measurements on both sides. Then after that, I'm going to be joining the back at the center bust, at the under bust area, just like we did for the front. I'm going to join it also for the back. So I'll place it together and I will join. So by the time you're done joining, this is what it looks like for the front. And when you turn it to the wrong side, this is what we have. So at this point, I'm just going to be closing this with the lining, and I'll be facing it like this, and I'll sew using 1/2 inch sewing allowance. So just join it from the side seam on one side all the way to the side seam of the other side. And then I'll do the same thing for the back as well. So you turn it to the wrong side, then you face the lining towards that gathered point like this, the right side of the lining facing the wrong side, and then you sew from the zipper line all the way to the side. So at this point, you're going to measure the waistline of the front. So from the side seam of the right, you measure all the way to the side seam of the left, and what I got is 18 inches. So this is a fabric that I'll be using for the front, and when you open it up, this is what we have. So make sure you notch the midpoints and the quarter points. So the width of this fabric is 18 times 4 because I want to gather 8 times 4. So what I have is about 72 inches, while the length of it is about 20 inches, depending on how long you want your dress to be. So at this point, I'll just go ahead and run a gather stitch from one side to the next, while for the hemline, I will hem it in place. So after running the gather stitch, I'm just going to go ahead and gather it from one point all the way to the other side. So by the time you are done gathering, this is what we have. So just measure from one part of the fabric all the way to the next to get your 18 inches that we measured earlier. So if it is lesser than the 18 inches, just loosen it up. If it is more, tighten it. So after you get the 18 inches point, or whatever your own measurement is, you're going to be joining the downside to the waist part of the dress. So make sure the midpoint is aligning and the quarter point as well is aligning, and you're going to sew using 1/2 inch sewing allowance from the side seam all the way to the side seam on the other side. I'll do the same thing for the back as well. So I'll measure from here to here is 9 inches on both sides, and then the fabric that I have should be 9 inches times 4, which is about 36 inches. So we are going to have two of these, one for the left side and the other for the right side. So the width of it is 36 inches, while the length of it is the same with that of the front, which is 20 inches. So now you just take it to the sewing machine and you gather from one side to the next, while for the hemline, you're going to hem it. So after running the gather stitch, just go ahead and gather it. And then after you're done gathering, just go ahead and measure it to get back that 9 inches that we have. So now you just join it from the side seam, and then you make sure your gather starts 1 inch away from the side seam and stop 1 inch away from the zipper line. So by the time you're done joining the down part, this is what we have for the front, and this is what we have for the back. So now you're just going to be joining the front to the back at the side seam. So you're going to join using 1 inch sewing allowance from the armhole area all the way to the length of the dress, so, or depending on the allowance you left while you were cutting. So I'll do the same thing on the other side as well. While on this part I'm going to be adding zip to it, and I'll be closing it all the way to the end. That's basically all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Please do well to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.